like Eli Wiesel books I read it, and that was how I learned more about it. I think there are stories that all the kids have heard, and that's it. Only like little stories, like one story that Shmuel was taken away, and it was Hanukkah time. And my father remembers they had a busload of kids, young kids, that they were taking away. And he remembers Aunt Betty running after the bus with a plate of latkes. She must have been like 10. Shmuel, Samuel, Shmuel. I don't know anything else about the older brother, just the name, Shmuel. And when he was in the camps, the only other story I heard was that he killed himself against a fence, the electrical fence, because you heard that too? Oh, good. She told me that they wanted to make him like a capo. Do you know what that is? Like someone who would make decisions about the other Jews and like hit them or whatever, and he just couldn't do it, so he killed himself. Your mom must have heard that too, from Hannah, right? No? No, I could have sworn she heard that before. Or Betty running after the bus with latkes? That doesn't ring a bell? Uncle Morris. Samuel never had a chance at life. He died at the age of 20 in Auschwitz concentration camp. He was the first to be taken to the labor camps when those gray buses used to show up to take the young men to the labor camps. I remember the whole family was out in town where the buses were, standing, just picking them up, where all the families were saying goodbye to the young men. We never saw Samuel again. I don't remember how old he was. He may have been 17, but we found out after the war that he had died at 20. When the Germans kept such terrific records, they were so exact with all the records they keep of everyone's life and death. And it was, as a matter of fact, it was my grandson, Jordan, Cheryl's son, who was an exchange student in Germany. He went to a museum and discovered those records in the basement of the museum, and he had given me that information. That was the first time I found out that when my brother had died. That was just a coincidence. She did exactly. She drank something that was poisonous. I don't know what she did. She was out of her mind, and she took this drug, and she went nuts, so she did something, and we had to put her in the hospital. So we put her in Four Winds, and I visited her every day. It was awful. There were a lot of drug addicts there, so out of place, and it was hard on her. I wish I could do a redo. It was a mistake, my mistake. But because when she got out, Daddy built a whole area in our house, and all of a sudden she was happy and everything was fine. I'm telling you, it was a freak one-time thing. She got better, and nobody thought she would. She lived very happy, very, very happy years, and we had so many good memories after that. She loved being a mother, a grandmother, and she loved family. We love her, we miss her, and I hope everything is all right. Okay, I love you. I wanted to send you a card for Passover, but I decided I'll give it to her myself when I see her. All right, have a good day. Bye-bye. This message will be saved for 21 days. Jeff Shaffney. My memory of your grandfather and grandmother is that they had matching suits. I don't know if you remember that, but it was so cute because your grandmother clearly did not want to be wearing this suit at this wedding. But it meant so much to your grandfather, and she said, look, it means something to him, so I'll wear it. And it was so sweet that having been married at that point, many, many years, she was nice enough to be wearing this suit, even though she didn't really want to be wearing it. Hannah was always very, I think they had a respect for one another, but I always had the feeling that Hannah was a little more intelligent of the two of them. But Irving worshipped your grandmother, worshipped her. Like, he looked at her like she was walking on water. Like, he must have just felt like he was just very lucky to have gotten your grandmother. We think it was a doctor mistake. They gave her too much fluid. I visited her, but she was on a ventilator, and I didn't want you to see her like that, especially with what you had been through. And Grandpa was saying she's going to be okay. But I took one look at her and I knew she was ready to let go. I didn't want to tell you anything though, because you never know. Then Grandpa called me, and I was taking you to ballet, and he said she left us. I remember you told me. I was in my room. You told me from outside the door. Well, I wanted you to keep your routine. I knew you were very fragile and you had to stay numb. I wanted to protect you. I mean, you were still in surgery. Who knows what the right thing to do was? I didn't know what the right thing to do was. But you know that thing about the cell phone? I told you that. That was so unreal. The boys were in the house and we were all ready to go to her funeral. I was putting on my makeup and I had my cell phone, and all of a sudden I freaked out and I started crying and I wanted to know if Mommy was okay. Is she in a box? What is she? One big family that he would, for Mom or Dad, I think there are stories, maybe like Eli Wiesel books I read it, and that was how I learned more about it. I think there are stories that all the kids have heard, and that's it. Only like little stories, like one story that Shmuel was taken away, and it was Hanukkah time. And my father remembers they had a busload of kids, young kids, that they were taking away. And he remembers Aunt Betty running after the bus with a plate of latkes. She must have been like 10. Shmuel, Samuel, Shmuel. I don't know anything else about the older brother, just the name, Shmuel. Oh, and when he was in the camps, the only other story, Sarah, we were all still together. We were only able to stay out one night because it was cold and it was snowy, it was winter. And we decided, of course we had no food. So we decided one day to try to sneak into town at dawn and try to find a friendly farmer that my dad knew. So on the way in, again, we were caught by the Germans, and we were going to go past a guardhouse or something like that. When they caught us, the Germans caught us and they stopped us. And they said, "Where are you going?" Not knowing if we were Jewish or not. And my father told him that we were just going to pick some berries, and we had just gotten lost, and we were coming home. And since it was dark and he couldn't see the paper, the only paper that my father actually had on him was a bill of lading, which is a form to ship merchandise, which he used when he was in business. We didn't have any IDs, so he gave that bill of lading to the German soldiers. I believe that the German soldiers really wanted to give him a chance. He must have realized who we were. So he told us, "Wait here while I go back to the barrack and check your identity." So as the soldier turns to leave, my father says, "Let's go." And we ran. My mother at first refused, but then she saw my father holding out his arms to us. We ran, so she ran after us. When the Germans came back out, they started shooting at us. Stop! But we were not hit. We hid at a train station where my father knew the train master, and we hid in the attic of the station about a day or two, but then we had to leave because it wasn't safe. Then we decided to go back to the hut because it was the only place we could go. And so we decided the Germans wouldn't come back there. My father built a section of the wall of the hut. We had a small window on the side, and he built this other fake wall. So if you came into the hut, it looked like the hut ended at that wall, but we were cramped in this small section inside between that window and the fake wall. Eventually, my father did ask my sisters, Betty and Sarah,